Your job is safe not because you're irreplaceable, but because you're cheap. An NVIDIA executive recently admitted something the industry usually keeps buried in footnotes. Right now, the cost of AI compute vastly exceeds the cost of the employees it's supposedly replacing. The robots aren't coming for your job. They just can't afford to. To understand why, you need to know what running a large AI model actually costs. We're not talking about your laptop running a chatbot. We're talking about data centers the size of football stadiums, packed with GPUs costing tens of thousands of dollars each, running around the clock, drinking electricity like a mid-sized country. Training a frontier AI model, the kind that can write code, pass medical licensing exams, or draft a legal brief, costs somewhere between $50 million and several $100 million. And that's just training. Inference, actually using the model at scale, adds up fast when millions of queries are flying through every hour. Here's a useful analogy. Imagine you hired a contractor to renovate your kitchen, but before they could pick up a hammer, they needed to build a custom factory to manufacture every single tool from scratch. That's roughly the overhead structure of modern AI. The renovation might look impressive. You've still paid for an entire industrial complex to get there. Compare that to a human knowledge worker. Salary, benefits, office space, roughly $100,000 to $200,000 a year in most developed economies. A single high-end GPU cluster running enterprise inference can cost millions annually in electricity and hardware depreciation alone, before it writes a single useful sentence. We've seen this story before. In the 1880s, industrial steam engines were absurdly expensive compared to the craftsmen they were disrupting. Then prices collapsed. Economies of scale took over. What was once a capital-intensive luxury became the floor of the market. Compute will get cheaper. That part is not in question. The question is when. Moore's law, the reliable doubling of transistor density roughly every 2 years, is slowing down. The easy gains in chip efficiency are largely claimed. The next leap requires algorithmic breakthroughs, new architectures, and the kind of engineering that doesn't arrive on a fixed schedule. The timeline is, to use a technical term, optimistically unclear. There's also a subtler point buried in the NVIDIA executive's admission. When the company selling shovels in a gold rush tells you the shovels are expensive, you should probably believe them. NVIDIA's business model depends on compute remaining costly and essential. The observation that AI costs more than employees is simultaneously a caution and a very polished sales pitch. The real story isn't whether AI will eventually replace workers. In many domains, at some price point, it will. The real story is that right now, you are the economical option. You are the cost-effective solution in the room. And the most quietly remarkable thing about this entire era of AI hype is that the company building the engine just confirmed the car still costs more than the driver. Strip away the hype and the headline, and 3 things remain: training frontier AI costs hundreds of millions, running it at scale costs millions more, and a human knowledge worker still costs a fraction of both. The NVIDIA executive's admission isn't a warning, it's arithmetic. Compute is the bottleneck, prices will fall eventually, but the timeline belongs to physics and engineering, not to press releases or investor decks. Every analogy the industry reaches for steam engines, the internet, electricity shares one inconvenient feature: the transition took decades, not quarters. Right now, on today's balance sheet, you are the cheaper option. That's not a permanent condition. But it is the actual present. What strikes us isn't the cost gap, that's just a spreadsheet. What strikes us is the framing. The executive who confirmed that AI can't yet afford to replace you is also the executive whose company profits most from you believing it eventually will. That's not hypocrisy. That's just how incentives work. But it does mean the narrative running in the background of every layoff announcement, every AI-first strategy deck, every breathless think piece, that narrative is being authored, at least in part, by the people selling the shovels. So here's what we keep coming back to: when the cost curve finally does shift, and it will, who gets to decide whether that moment is handled as an opportunity or a crisis, and have we even started that conversation yet?